Namaskar, my dear students. Today, in the quick review section, we will be discussing a very important topic, that is Hanau's squint. It is a very important question which is asked in the theory exam as a short note or a long note also, and it is commonly asked in the grand viva. Now, coming to the multiple choice question, yes, many MCQs are framed from this topic. So, let's begin. Now, before moving, first let us discuss what is balanced occlusion. Balanced occlusion is the simultaneously contact of the maxillary and the mandibular teeth on both the sides, that is right and the left, in the posterior and the interior occlusal areas, in centric and eccentric position, both. Okay, now these should be developed to lessen or limiting the tipping or rotating of the denture bases. Why? Because denture base is a single unit. On that we arrange the teeth, we place the teeth. Okay, unlike the natural dentition which is present in the mouth. So this is the balanced occlusion. Now this type of balanced occlusion is not found in the natural dentition. Okay, so why it is needed for the complete denture? First, to distribute the occlusal load evenly across the arch. As I told you that it is a one unit, denture is one unit. And second, it improves the stability of the denture during the centric, eccentric or the parafunctional movements. Now let us understand the mechanics of the balanced occlusion, how it is helping in complete denture. If you see the natural teeth, when the mandible is protruded, okay, so that the incisal edges, they are in contact, what will happen? A gap will be present between the upper and the lower posterior teeth, as we can see in the picture. This is called as Christensen's phenomenon. Okay, now just compare it with the complete denture. If this type of occlusion is present in the complete denture, it will cause tipping of the denture in the posterior region. So what we want a simultaneous interior and posterior contacts when the mandible is protruded. So that means we need a bilateral balanced occlusion in a complete denture. Now, Rudolf L. Hanau, he proposed 9 factors, that govern the articulation of the artificial teeth. They were horizontal condylar guidance, compensating curve, protrusive incisal guidance, plane of orientation, buccolingual inclination of the tooth axis, sagittal condylar pathway, sagittal incisal guidance, tooth alignment, and relative cusp height. Hanau later he condensed these 9 factors and formulated 5 factors which are commonly known as Hanau squint. These 5 factors are 1. Incisal guidance, 2nd. Condylar guidance, plane of occlusion, compensating curves, and the cuspal angle. So let us discuss them one by one. The first factor in the Hanau squint is incisal guidance. Incisal guidance is the path of the contact of the upper and the lower interior teeth which have on the movement of the mandible. Okay. Second, incisal guide angle. It is the angle which is formed by the palatal surface of the upper interior teeth against the horizontal plane. It is the interior end controlling factor of articulation. Okay, very important. It is asked in multiple choice question also. In complete denture, we keep a minimal incisal guidance. Okay, within the confine of the aesthetics and the phonetics, we keep minimal because we want the stability of the denture. Okay, there will be minimal tipping if we will keep the incisal guidance minimal. This incisal guidance is determined by the overjet and the overbite. Now to keep it minimal, we keep the overjet as 1 to 2 mm and overbite 0.5 to 1 mm in complete denture. If the overbite is increased, the incisal guidance will also increase. and if the overjet is increased, the incisal guidance decreases. So this way we will manage accordingly. The second factor of the Hanau squint is condylar guidance. What is condylar guidance? It is the mandibular guidance or the path generated by the condyle and the articular disc traversing the contour of the interior slope of glenoid fossa, as we can see in the picture. It is the posterior end controlling factor. Incisal guidance was the interior end controlling, and this is the posterior end controlling factor. What is condylar guidance angle? It is the angle which is formed by the imaginary horizontal line, as we can see the dotted line labeled as 2. Okay, and the path that the condyle will pass through. So the angle made by these two lines form the condylar guidance angle labeled as number 3. Okay, now this condylar guidance is independent of the tooth contact. It is dependent on the anatomy of the temporomandibular joint. Okay, one more very important point, that the condylar guidance is the only factor which is given by the patient. It has to be recorded. It is fixed. It is not in the clinician's hand. Multiple choice questions are framed from this statement. Okay, now how it is recorded? It is determined by the protrusive record. Condylar guidance is of two types. One is the horizontal condylar guidance and second is the lateral condylar guidance. Horizontal condylar guidance, it guides the forward movement for the protrusive balance, and the lateral condylar guidance, it guides the sideways or the lateral movement of the mandible. The next factor in the Hanau squint is plane of occlusion. What is plane of occlusion? It is the average plane which is established by the incisal and the occlusal surfaces of the teeth. Clinically, we establish the plane of occlusion. The interior plane is determined by the height of the lower cuspids, which is nearly coincident with the commissures or the corners of the mouth, and the posterior plane is determined by the height of the retromolar pad. It is the junction of the interior 2/3 and the posterior 1/3 of the retromolar pad. The limitation of this factor is that its position can be altered only slightly, okay, within the functional limits. The next important factor in Hanau squint is compensating curve. It is a very important factor and it separately comes as a short note also in the theory exam. You know, the compensating curves, they are the interior, posterior or the lateral curvatures in the alignment of the occluding surfaces and the incisal edges of the artificial teeth, which are used to develop the balanced occlusion. First, understand that two types of curves are present in the natural dentition that we have to compensate. First is the interior posterior curves. In this we have the curve of Spee. Curve of Spee is the interior posterior curve which begins at the tip of the lower canine following the buccal cusp of the natural premolars and the molars, continuing to the interior border of the ramus. Okay, it was described by Graf von Spee. The second is the lateral curves. In the lateral curves, first we have the Monson curve. It is the curve of occlusion in which each cusp and the incisal edge, each touches the segment of a sphere of around 8 inches in diameter with its center in the region of glabella. The next lateral curve is the Wilson curve. It is also the curve of occlusion in which the maxillary arch is convex. Okay, the lower teeth, they slide with the upper teeth in such a way, and it mainly depicts the lingual inclination of the mandibular teeth. Okay, the lingual cusps are at a lower level as compared to the buccal cusp. The next lateral curve is the Plaisir curve. It is the curve of occlusion. Okay, it is also the lateral curve and it is convex upward except for the last molars. Now coming to the complete dentures, we have to compensate these curves so that we can eliminate the Christensen's phenomena, okay, and maintain a balanced occlusion in complete denture. Now, how do we do that? We make the glass plate or the glass slab relation during the teeth arrangement. Okay, so the inclination of the posterior teeth and their relation with the occlusal plane that we incorporate during the glass slab helps in creating the compensating curves. If there is a steep condylar path, okay, this will require a steep compensating curve to be given for a occlusal balance. The last very important factor in the Hanau squint is the cuspal angle. What is cuspal angle? The angle made by the average slope of a cusp with the cuspal plane measured mesiodistally or buccolingually. It is called as the cuspal angle. Based on the cuspal angle, there can be three types of teeth: anatomic, semi-anatomic and the non-anatomic. The anatomic teeth have a cuspal angle of 30 to 33 degree. They are given in good ridges cases where we have to maintain the balance. Second are the semi-anatomic teeth. The cuspal angle is around 20 degree. Okay, where we want the cuspal angle to be decreased, maintaining harmony with the other factors. Third are the non-anatomic, where the cuspal angle is 0 to 5 degree. These are the flat teeth. We give these teeth where we are planning for a monoplane occlusion. You know, this cuspal angle is a very important factor. It helps to modify the effect of the plane of occlusion and the compensating curves. Now these all five factors by the Hanau squint, that is incisal guidance, condylar guidance, plane of occlusion, compensating curves and the cuspal angle. The interrelationship of these five factors were described by Thielman's formula. Okay, this interrelationship helps to maintain the balanced occlusion. The formula was that if C is the balanced occlusion, that is equal to the condylar inclination into the incisal inclination divided by the occlusal plane into cuspal inclination and the compensating curves. If we take it as a complete balance, the incisal guidance and the condylar guidance are on one side, plane of occlusion, compensating curves and the cuspal angle are on the other side. So if the condylar guidance which is recorded in the patient is more, what we will have to do, we will have to decrease the incisal guidance which is on the same side, or we will have to increase the other three factors on the other side, that is the plane of occlusion, compensating curves or the cuspal angle. Let us discuss them in detail. Now, if we see this picture where all the five factors are in balance, the incisal guidance and the condylar guidance on the extreme ends, then plane of occlusion, compensating curves and the cuspal angle, we can see a proper touching, a proper contact of the upper and the lower teeth. Okay, now a few important points to maintain the balance. First is that of the five factors, we discussed earlier also that the patient presents you with the condylar inclination. That means it is a fixed factor. Okay, we have to record this. Occlusal plane, it cannot be altered substantially. You know, since the functional requirements, it dictates its position. We cannot increase the plane of occlusion for more than 10 degree. Okay, within the confine of aesthetics and phonetics, we minimize the incisal guidance in complete denture. This also we discussed earlier, that we have to minimize, keep the incisal guidance minimal to minimize the tipping forces. And very important, we have to adjust the remaining factors to maintain the balance. Now, for example, if the incisal guidance is increased, then what will happen? Here we can see the five factors were present, but now we are planning to increase the incisal guidance. When there will be movement of the mandible, what will happen? There will be posterior disocclusion. Okay, proper contact was present, but now there is a disocclusion because of the increase in the incisal guidance. Now, how we can correct this posterior disocclusion? We can do it by increasing the curvature of the compensating curves. Okay, so we have raised the compensating curves and this will present the disocclusion in the posteriors. Now let us quickly summarize the relationship of all the 5 factors. As we saw that the incisal guidance and the condylar guidance are present on the one side of the balance, the plane of occlusion, compensating curve and the cuspal angle are present on the other side. So if one factor on one side is increasing, suppose the incisal guidance is increasing as we saw in the example also, so first either we can decrease the condylar guidance or we will have to increase one of the factors on the opposite side. Okay, but as we cannot alter the condylar guidance, so what we can do, if the inclination of incisal guidance is increasing, we can increase the cuspal angle, we can raise the compensating curve and the plane of occlusion. Suppose the condylar guidance is more, okay, that we have recorded. So what we can do, we can decrease the incisal guidance, we can increase the cuspal angle, or we can raise the plane of occlusion or the compensating curve. The third factor is the plane of occlusion. This is the plane of orientation. If it is more or if it is raised, then what we can do, we can either increase the condylar guidance or we can raise the incisal guidance. Or on the opposite side, we can decrease these factors, like we can decrease the cuspal angle or we can just lower down the compensating curves. The next factor is the compensating curves. If there is prominence of compensating curves, then we will either have to increase the condylar or the incisal guidance, which are on the opposite side, or we need to decrease the plane of orientation or decrease the cuspal angle. The last factor is the height of the cusp or the cuspal angle. If it is more, then either we can increase the incisal or increase the condylar guidance, which are on the opposite side, or we decrease the compensating curves or decrease the plane of orientation. Okay, so by this I think all the 5 factors and their relationship with each other is clear to you, because these come as some tricky multiple choice questions also. So that's all for the topic today. Please like and share the video. Give your comments as your feedback, or even you can give your topics which I will try to cover them. Subscribe the channel for more and more learning. Wish you success today and always.